How do we self-worth? What is the worth of self? More so, does that sort of thing exist past what we know as pride? Are we attached to this image because we like it, or do we like this image of ourselves because we find ourselves being attached and stuck to it? I think the idea of worth begins when we are born. Like, we expose ourselves to a plethora of circumstances in an environment that will shape our identity regardless of like our internal monologue. Like, there are definitely some situations in life that can shape your identity, and a lot of that stuff doesn't really have to do with you, more so how you're interacting with your environment and how you're reacting to the certain stimulus within it. But I feel like once we gain a little bit more consciousness, like once we get up, like when I was 13 years old, that's when I feel like I experienced it, like being able to see a little bit further ahead, like see the world around you for more than just what you're currently experiencing, and kind of delve deeper into what makes you go. And I feel like once we get that little bit more consciousness, these like societal things and these implications are like developmental. Like, we're able to see what's causing what. And like, it's only once you realize that you need a lot more attention in life that you come to see that maybe you should have gotten a little bit more when you were younger. But if things like this are so hard to articulate and so hard to necessarily ask for, how can we expect ourselves realistically to ask for help in these scenarios? This stress of worth has to be unrealistic. Like, how can I, a man at 18 years old, truly determine what my self-worth is from my own experience? How do we self-worth?
Using self as a verb and we're selfing worth, I think that's just the same thing as asking where we derive our worth from. But that depends on the person. I think, excuse me, I think a lot of people derive self-worth from a lot of different places. Some of those places can be negative, like if you're deriving your self-worth from comparison to others, because there's always going to be somebody that's better than you. Or if you're deriving self-worth from how you, I don't know. Basically, self-worth can come from a lot of different things. Some of those things can be detrimental to both mental and physical health, spiritual health, emotional health, all the different health sectors. But to go back to your original question, how do we self-worth? I think we self-worth from what's around us, and from what we value as important and what we choose to see as important.
I have yet to even scratch the surface of many of the things I will experience. So how can I judge my self-worth off of experience itself? I feel like having experience as a foundation for your self-worth, or interaction for an experience, or interaction as a foundation for your worth, is only going to lead to your demise. Those sort of foundations are constantly changing, and you can't have your self-worth foundation change constantly, or else your self-worth will change itself. I have so much yet I have to do. Like, I have so much more potential than what I've done so far. So to surmise all of my experience up to now into the actions I've taken so far, which are few in number because of my inability to, how can I derive my self-worth from this? And also deriving self-worth from others, like, how can I do that? It's easy to see how far ahead other people can be ahead of you. So where does interactions with others or comparison come into identifying your own self? But this is my point exactly. The worth of self right now, I feel like it's too much based on application rather than just being. The worth of self should not be based on things we have to do or things we've done. It should be more of an internal piece, more so than a external acquiring of achievement. Things should and do have value just by existing. Life in and of itself has value. So every person inherently has value regardless of what they're doing. A friend of mine just said something that kind of inspired this video uh, when he said that he said people who derive their self-worth from their superiority to others need immediate termination. Um,
Is there a difference between self worth and good self image?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times the two are used in more synonymous contexts, but I think there is a difference when you get down to the microscopic details. I don't know if I can pinpoint them all correctly just now, but I do think the ideas are different. They're not drastically different, obviously, but they are different. I think self worth is I think self worth is why you value being you, and I think good self image is how you see yourself in an interaction with the world and the environment.
that is to say that like prideful or narcissistic or egotistical uh, accumulation of self worth truly has no foundation and truly has no fruit to bear. It's merely muddled up nonsense in the mind that you think that people are up for comparison. And that kind of thought process is definitely not beneficial to anyone in life. I don't think anybody is truly up for comparison in terms of them being and their identity. Like you can be compared in like action. Like somebody can cook better than me. That's easy comparison and that's justifiable. But to say someone is better than someone else is completely preposterous. I feel like to get real worth, we have to address what we really are rather than what we think we've really done or what social standing we think we really have. This somewhat like the pain of existence kind of tricks ourselves of worth. Like everybody undergoes these experiences in life, and some of them may be negative or positive, but they kind of use that trauma as a foundation for their own being. Like something can happen to them when they're younger, and then they automatically think that they're worse off, or someone called them an ugly, stinky doodle head when they were in fifth grade. Now they are insecure about how they look. And I feel like too much is based on that sort of interaction. I feel like self worth, like as corny as it sounds, truly come from within. External factors that attribute to self worth are almost always grounded in an unstable foundation. Like you have to be the sculptor and the 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 statue all at once. Like you have to be the thing carving yourself out. You can't allow others to do that because they're just imprinting their own image of you, something that you're not supposed to be, onto you. We are beautiful regardless of what's self worth should not be based on status. It should be based on, strength and goodness of your own character.
What does self worth have to do with integrity?
Well, I think that can go two ways. I think some people might derive their self worth from the fact that they have high amounts of integrity in all situations. But I think, hold on while I look at the definition one more time. Because the definition is saying, the textual definition of integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. So I think some people might derive their self-worth from the fact that they adhere to their moral principles in all situations, no matter who they're surrounded by or what they're faced up against. But I think having a high amount I think having a high amount of integrity can lead to an improved self-worth, because if you have a high amount of integrity, you're going to, like I said, adhere to your morals, and you're going to be you in every situation and not let, basically you're going to be the opposite of a sponge. You're not going to let what's happening around you influence your self-worth. So I think that high amount of integrity helps almost kind of fortify your self-worth in a sense.
I believe in stuff like karma. So, um, so those who feel or those who fail to improve their character definitely have like some sort of, I don't want to say punishment. It's not a punishment. They have a rude awakening ahead of them. Because, like I said, it's he who thinks the journey is over that's truly lost. And when people think they're stuck in this identity, once something goes along and sort of sets them astray, they're gonna get mentally ill. Like, you're going to get depressed if you think that this is your character and then something shows you maybe your character's not that good. And I feel like you're supposed to see like some room for growth within your own character. And that's part of being human. That's part of existing, is that constant allocation of growth, improving constantly. And I feel like as long as you're on that path of improvement, as long as you're trying to be more morally um, conscious and conscious of how you interact with people, how you affect people, then you can truly call yourself a good-natured person. You can have good self-worth in that way. Like you can, and I feel like self-worth is a lot more of a repetitive telling myself. Uh, Sometimes we need a lot of external factors in order to justify our own self-worth and image. Like a lot of people's insecurities stem from them not getting something they think they deserve in some facet of life. And of course, this should be taken with a grain of salt because, like, sometimes you do need that sort of external stimulus. But with things like me personally, I realized that I needed more attention. Like I always wanted it, so I've always expected it and kind of judge my relationships based on how much attention I'm getting. And I fail to realize that some people just don't give attention in the ways that I see fit. So I need to kind of take steps back and truly take care of myself and give myself the attention I think I deserve to myself and stop my dependency on the external factors of the world. And that's going to automatically lower my expectations of others and allow me to exist in a world that's more peaceful. So the only task left to the self is to value the self without reference to value. We need to value the self simply because it's possible.